It's Friday, January 20. In the headlines, Finance Minister pleads for patience from the public in the alleged SSL fraud scandal. In business news, Microsoft latest to cut jobs amid tech layoffs. Regionally, Prime Minister and Attorney General sworn in after general elections in Antigua and Barbuda. Internationally, teacher among 2 Palestinians killed by Israeli forces. And in sports, West Indies under-19 women loses to New Zealand. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says based on preliminary updates, a number of elderly investors are among those allegedly defrauded at investment firm Stocks and Securities Limited, SSL. In a media release late Thursday night, Dr. Clark assured the public that the probe by the Financial Investigations Division into the massive alleged fraud will, quote, seek to identify whether assets have been acquired with the proceeds of this fraud. If and when such assets are identified, all legal steps will be taken to restrain these assets with the intention of full forfeiture, end quote. He says in the statement that, quote, there will be full transparency. No stone will be left unturned in unearthing exactly how the funds were allegedly stolen, who benefited from such theft, and who organized and collaborated in this, end quote. The Finance Minister says although speed is necessary and is being applied, there is need for patience due to the complexities that arise from the very long period over which the alleged fraud was perpetrated. Dr. Clark issued that statement hours after he announced that the Executive Director of the regulatory body, Finance Services Commission, Mr. Everton McFarlane, had resigned from the post, one day after facing the press about the multi-billion-dollar fraud at SSL, which is yet to be fully quantified. Sprint legend Usain Bolt is among the 40 SSL clients affected by the fraud. He, through his lawyers, has given SSL 10 days from January 16 to pay over approximately $2 billion that he said was in his account up to October 2022. When quizzed on this oversight of the institution, Mr. McFarlane said at a press conference on Wednesday that there existed awareness of public concern over issues pertaining to SSL.
I had indicated that we had received an advisory from the company itself about the incidents of fraud, and subsequent to that we would have received other reports which would not have been from SSL. So that's what I mean by independent, right? Independent of SSL.
The Ministry of National Security has handed over 750 traffic ticket management system handsets and 750 mobile handheld printers to the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the JCF. This is the first installment of devices towards nationwide implementation of the fully digitized ticketing system. The ceremony was held at the office of the Commissioner of Police in St. Andrew on Thursday. Smart Android devices and portable printers are to be used to facilitate the electronic issuance of traffic tickets and allow for electronic recording of tickets. Maya Chung has more in this story.
This will enable police officers to reference driver and vehicle information, including ticket history, outstanding tickets, and warrants. In his address, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang said the TTMS replaces the yellow ticket book, which was inefficient and prone to errors. He said that the system itself was riddled with challenges. Dr. Chang added that the technology identified 21 points of failure in the Jamaican ticketing system. He also noted that these include poor penmanship, which affected the legibility of tickets, data entry errors, late submission of tickets, among other things. The initiative was piloted in Kingston and St. Andrew between January 1 and March 31, 2022 with 70 devices and yielded a 90% error reduction. The TTMS is a centralized web-based platform designed to improve traffic ticket management from the point of issuance to either payment of the fines at tax offices or adjudication in court. All traffic tickets issued with the devices will instantly be uploaded to a centralized database, which is accessible to the JCF, the traffic courts, and all other government agencies. The minister noted that the Smart Check e-ticketing system will be used along with the TTMS. The Smart Check ticketing system provides officers with the ability to issue a printed ticket on the spot with information of the offense, fine, court date, and other information. The system also allows for officers to instantly check motorists if they are persons of interest or wanted, as well as information pertaining to fitness, registration, insurance, and other personal data. For the news on PBCJ, I am Maya Chung.
Connex Services Limited has donated sanitization products and equipment to hospitals to help prevent the harmful spread of viruses such as COVID-19. Among the items donated by the company for distribution are automatic dispensers and electrostatic sprayers. Prime Minister Andrew Holness said in a social media post on Wednesday that the items will be distributed to 24 hospitals across the region to assist in continuing efforts to reduce the spread of viruses and bacterial diseases.
Profit also means that everyone around you is doing well. And so you are not just talking about it, you're a perfect example of an enlightened businessman who is fulfilling his corporate social responsibility to the tune of 10.5 million Jamaican dollars worth of equipment.
Connex Services Limited is a telecommunications engineering company that has been providing alternate energy solutions and engineering services to Jamaica since 2003. The donation is timely as the country has seen an increase in COVID-19 cases since the start of the year. Repairs being programmed for 2 roads in the constituency of Manchester Southern will cost approximately $415 million. Those are the Porous to Redberry Road, which will cost $104 million, and the Newport to Pusey Hill Road to be done at a cost of $311 million. The estimates were provided by Minister without Portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Everald Warmington, who inspected the damaged roads during a tour of sections of the constituency on Wednesday, January 18. He was accompanied by Member of Parliament Robert Chin and the National Works Agency officials. Mr. Warmington advised that work was initiated on several road infrastructure projects in the constituency. The minister indicated that other road restoration projects will be undertaken throughout the constituency, noting that discussions will be held with the NWA regarding estimates of these undertakings. Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
In a press release sent out this week, the Bank of Jamaica is assuring the public that the bank continues to monitor the developments in the financial sector closely to ensure the soundness and stability of the financial system. It has also given assurance that its supervised deposit-taking institutions remain adequately capitalized and liquid, and that all deposits in these institutions remain safe and secure. The statement comes after multiple reports of alleged fraud at local financial institutions. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Thursday, January 19, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.37. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $114.81. The pound sterling traded for $189.63. And the euro sold for an average of $169.54. In GSE trading, the GSE index declined by 1,426 points. The junior market index declined by 72 points. The combined market index declined by 1,992 points. And the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 1,548 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 109 stocks, of which 29 advanced, 61 declined, and 19 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, Consolidated Bakeries Jamaica Limited, and Derrimont Trading Company Limited. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 9 million units, Paramount Trading Jamaica Limited with over 4 million units, and Dollar Financial Services Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, Calypso Macro Index Fund was the only active security posting over 1,000 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the volume leader with over 40,000 shares. They were followed by Epley Caribbean Property Fund Value Fund, which traded over 7,000 shares. In regional business, the Caribbean Development Bank is forecasting regional growth of 5.7% in 2023, anchored on the continued resuscitation of tourism arrivals and continued investments in the energy sector. The projection was made by CDB's Vice President of Operations, Isaac Solomon, at the bank's annual conference.
Looking ahead, for 2023, we project that despite facing multiple challenges, BMC's economic performance will continue to improve over the medium term. While cautiously optimistic about the near-term outlook and recognizing the uncertainty regarding the war in Ukraine, it is difficult to estimate growth with a large degree of certainty. CDB forecasts regional growth of 5.7% in 2023, anchored on the continued resuscitation of tourism arrivals and continued investments in the energy sector. This forecast, however, is subject to some downside risk, since most advanced economies are on track to register lower growth relative to 2022, increasing the likelihood of a global recession. When coupled with continued, albeit low inflation, this slowdown in economic activity could trigger stagflation. The predicted economic growth should boost government revenues and aid in improving fiscal outturns. In addition, some BMCs have signaled intentions to intensify consolidation efforts in 2023 to get back in line with fiscal rules suspending during the pandemic period.
In international business, Microsoft said it would cut 10,000 jobs and take a $1.2 billion charge to earnings as its cloud computing customers reassess their spending and the company braces for potential recession.
Alex Zukin, managing director at Wolf Research, said the layoffs reflect broader belt tightening in the industry.
Many companies are right-sizing their staff for what's likely to be a more incrementally challenging period in demand from the macroeconomy versus the last 2 years. And I think a lot of companies are using this as an opportunity to get more efficient and to align their cost structure with their revenue base. And Microsoft's, one of the largest companies in the world, if not sometimes the largest. So they're more macro exposed and more macro impacted than many other companies. And so, I think this is the right move for the times that we're heading into.
The timing of the announcement comes the same day its cloud computing rival Amazon said more employees will be notified in its own move to cut 18,000 jobs. It also corresponds with the rapid rise in interest rates, says Aaron Terrazas, chief economist at Glassdoor.
Fundamentally, a lot of companies in tech are grappling with the consequence of higher interest rates. At the end of the day, a higher interest rate is a higher cost of risk. And tech companies are in the risk business. They make bets on the future, on ideas, with the hope that those ideas are going to be profitable at some point down the line. The cost of waiting just got a lot more expensive over the past year. And so a lot of them are reevaluating their business lines, reevaluating their investments, and also reevaluating kind of the high labor costs that they've accumulated in the very tight labor market over the past year and a half.
In a note to employees, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said customers wanted to, quote, optimize their digital spend to do more with less and, quote, exercise caution as some parts of the world are in a recession and other parts are anticipating one. Nadella said the layoffs affecting less than 5% of Microsoft's workforce would conclude by the end of March.
In market data for oil rose and was heading for a second straight weekly gain, spurred by expectations of a boost to fuel demand in the world's second biggest economy. Brent crude gained 9 cents to $86.25 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude advanced 71 cents to $81.04. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, in Antigua and Barbuda, an update on the results of the 2023 general election, as Prime Minister Gaston Brown and Attorney General Stedroy Benjamin were sworn into office on Thursday morning. Shevelin Biza reports.
Hours after the last votes were counted and the seat counts confirmed, the new administration to administer the country's affairs for the next 5 years started to take shape.
I, Gaston Brown, do swear that I will honor, uphold, and preserve the Constitution of Antigua and Barbuda and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as Prime Minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will. So help me God.
Stedroy Benjamin also took the oath of office as Attorney General.
I, Stedroy Cutie Oliver Benjamin, do swear that I will honor, uphold, and preserve the Constitution of Antigua and Barbuda and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as Attorney General and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will. So help me God.
The Prime Minister and Attorney General also took the oaths of allegiance and secrecy before being presented with their instruments of appointment. Prime Minister Brown secured a commanding victory in St. John's City West, while A.G. Benjamin was also dominant in his victory in St. John's City South. Prime Minister Brown, the first to serve 3 straight terms as head of government in Antigua and Barbuda, says he's honored and humbled.
I'm honored, I'm humbled that the people of Antigua and Barbuda would have reposed such trust in me to extend a 3rd term as Prime Minister. And I want to take this opportunity to recommit to the empowerment of the people of Antigua and Barbuda, to use all of my energy, all of my intellect to continue to promote strategies for the empowerment, and at the same time to make sure that I never betray their trust.
Director of Economics at the Caribbean Development Bank, Mr. Ian Durant, says Barbadian workers should not expect the government to increase wages to match the pace in the cost of living. Mr. Durant was speaking with CBC News after the CDB 2023 annual news conference.
Are you hesitating to give me a percentage?
I'm not. I can't give you a percentage. That's what I'm saying.
From where you're sitting.
I can't give you a percentage. That's something that has to be negotiated with full information and more complex information than a headline inflation rate.
Do you believe in chasing inflation?
See, again, it depends. It depends. It's far more complicated than that. It's not. An economy is much more dynamic than that. Let's say inflation is 7%. And
Should a worker then be expecting a 7% increase on their wages?
A 7% increase across the board has implications that might not be obvious, right? It has implications for the performance of the economy that might not be obvious. So one has to have a full information set.
The International Council of Beverages Associations endorsed the recently announced Alliance for Wellness and Conscious Eating in the Dominican Republic as an effective model for replication in other Caribbean markets. ICBA supported the alliance, noting that these types of partnerships raise awareness among citizens about the importance of adopting a balanced lifestyle. Through the signing of an agreement, the government and the private sector are joining forces to promote individual and collective well-being. The ICBA Director for Latin America and the Caribbean says our countries should consider it a positive and powerful alternative to promoting better health. In the Dominican Republic, the Ministries of Public Health and Industry and Commerce are spearheading the initiative with the active support of the Industries Association of the Dominican Republic, which includes a large-scale, well-developed campaign with a series of actions to promote education on nutrition. In Guyana, 2 American tourists drowned last year while visiting tourist spots in the interior of Guyana, and according to Director of the Guyana Tourism Authority, Cameron Bax, the incidents could have been avoided had better safety systems been in place.
On October 30th, 2022, Gladstone Haynes, a NYPD veteran officer, drowned while swimming in the Irene River at Orangeook Falls. Less than a month later, on November 24th, American tourist Thomas Carston Jr. drowned after the boat he was in capsized in the Essequibo River near Apatary Village in Region 9. Police headquarters had reported that he panicked and jumped overboard when the vessel began taking in water. Following these 2 incidents, Director of the Guyana Tourism Authority, Cameron Bash, said a stakeholder consultation was held to address health and safety systems across the tourism sector.
And I think to the latter part of that year, we did a stakeholder consultation to address health and safety systems across the industry. We're cognizant of the various incidents that you just mentioned. They are very unfortunate, I must say that, and things that could have been avoided if there were, better safety management systems in place.
Bash related that the company Brensgen Systems Development, that specializes in the development of safety management systems, is now on board to assist store operators to implement safety systems.
But apart from that, the broader plan from the authority and the ministry is to conduct a series of trainings in safety management, and we've since put together that.
Bash also said that health and safety training for the sector is a top priority for this year. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanella Patwo.
In the Bahamas, while addressing the IDB P2RCT Symposium on Thursday, Prime Minister Philip Davis stressed the need for disaster management as he spoke of the challenges faced while rebuilding after natural disasters. Candino Knowles has the details.
Referencing 2019's Hurricane Dorian, Davis says debt remains high due to the need to rebuild amid inflationary pressures. He says the Bahamas is already paying for climate change.
Our debt burden remains high, in significant part due to these climate risks, including the need to regularly rebuild homes, businesses, and infrastructure after devastating hurricanes. Our cost of borrowing prices in the risk of future hurricanes, so we are, in a sense, already paying a high price for the intensifying weather patterns of tomorrow.
Amid the grim reality, the Prime Minister says some European countries backtracked on their pledges to reduce carbon emissions to meet their energy needs. He stressed the need for agency collaborations, saying no ministry is an island.
It is vital that climate change, disaster risk reduction, and health risk management be tackled using an integrated approach. As the pandemic wanes, we have to ensure that the targets of the Paris Agreement remain a central priority.
In international news, Israeli forces have shot and killed 2 Palestinians during a raid in the Jenin refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. Their deaths take the number of Palestinians killed by Israeli forces this month to 17.
In the early hours, Israeli special forces backed by the army carried out a raid in Jenin refugee camp. The firefight was intense. One Palestinian fighter, 25-year-old Adam Jabareen, was killed. Another man, unarmed and not a fighter, was also shot dead. 57-year-old Jawad Farid Bawakane was a teacher at a local school. His son describes what happened.
Israeli special forces entered the camp at 2:30 a.m. They stormed the building. Adham was standing here. They shot him. We were dragging him away. He was calling for help. Ours is the closest house. How could we leave him? I opened the door. My father and we dragged him in. They shot at my father. My father went out to help a wounded man who was screaming for help.
These almost nightly raids across the occupied West Bank have killed 17 Palestinians this year. In Jenin refugee camp, many of the residents are people who were forced from their homes when Israel created its state in 1948. Young people who have never seen their ancestral homes. Frustrated by the lack of any kind of peace process, many of those young men are now becoming increasingly hardened. A recent opinion poll suggests 59% of Palestinian respondents supported an armed struggle against the occupation.
We haven't seen such support for an armed intifada since the last one. It's mainly due to the Israeli policies in the occupied West Bank, increased settlements, killings and raids on a daily basis, the latest Israeli elections and calls to expel all Palestinians.
Israel shows no signs of stopping or even reducing raids like these, and this far-right government is openly hostile to all Palestinians, a combination that has led to violence in the past. This mural commemorates the armed intifada, the armed struggle in the year 2000. Now, many here say another reckoning with Israel is coming. The only question is what shape that will take, and that question is being asked with ever more increasing frequency. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera, Ramallah.
In sports, New Zealand women defeated West Indies women by 10 wickets in their Group C match of the ICC Women's Under-19 T20 World Cup at Senwes Park on Thursday. TTT Sports gives us the match details.
Batting first, the Caribbean ladies were bundled out for a paltry 68 as they were unable to express their shots due to disciplined New Zealand bowling. Kate Chandler was the pick of the bowlers for the Kiwis, taking 3 for 8 from her 4 overs. The only West Indian batter into double figures was Anisha Fontaine, who scored 11 with extras amounting to 25. Needing 69 to stay on top of Group C, New Zealand raced to the target in 7.2 overs, 72 without loss, the final score. New Zealand winning comfortably by 10 wickets. This puts them first on 6 points, with the Windies second on 4.
And that's the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. You can follow us on your social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks so much for watching.